The Committee of the Whole is called to order. Good morning, Guam, and good morning to my colleagues. Materials for the Committee of the Whole are in the shared session Google Drive folder labeled 32626 Committee of the Whole. The rules of engagement are as follows. We have bills number 231-38, 262-38, 205-38, and 228-38 to be heard in the Committee of the Whole. There will be 2 rounds. Each bill will be discussed individually during each round. Round 1, discussion and questions, will be for 5 minutes. In the first round, each senator is allotted 5 minutes, excluding responses for discussion and questions to the panel. A reminder, you can only yield your time to one member, and that member will receive all of that time. After completing round 1 of questions on the 4 bills, panelists will be dismissed. Round 2, amendments or final comments will be for 5 minutes. Proposed amendments must be submitted in writing to the clerk via email to session@guamlegislature.gov and must be submitted before the second round begins. We will proceed with the amendments in the order received. Any replacement is considered a new submission. Any amendments not submitted in writing to the clerk and uploaded to the Google Drive folder before the start of the second round will be ruled out of order. After we finish the amendments or final comments round of the bill, I will allow the sponsor of the bill to close and entertain a motion for recommendation of the Committee of the Whole, and then entertain a motion to rise. Thank you for your attention. We are in the first round at this time. I will take a short recess as we invite the guests to come in who will be answering questions on the proposed legislation. 1 minute recess.
Works.
The Committee of the Whole is now called back to order. We are in the first round. I invite the panel guests, and we've already done that, of course. They're here with us, so I ask the Sergeant-Arms to swear them in, and then I'll have them introduce themselves. Sergeant-Arms, please swear in the panel.
Please stand and raise your right hand. Under penalty of perjury, do you affirm that any and all information you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, and in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay. Mr. Chair, under oath, you may proceed.
Thank you, Sarge Jesus Masi. Again, colleagues, questions with the panelists. Each senator will be allotted 5 minutes, one round. Senator San Augustine, you are currently recognized to open on Bill 231-38 as amended by the Committee on Finance and Government Operations. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Buenos to all my colleagues and to those who are watching our live stream. I rise today to present Bill 231-38 before this body, which is a measure that is both timely and essential for addressing the pressing physical realities facing our island. The legislative findings make it clear the government of Guam continues to confront serious budgetary challenges rooted in our fragile and undiversified economy. The sharp contraction in the tourism sector, once the backbone of our private industry, has left many small and mid-sized businesses struggling to survive. While the surge in the U.S. military's construction temporarily provides a much-needed boost, that boom has now plateaued, and the excess revenue we saw in recent years were largely tied to federal expenditures, not sustainable local growth. Bill 231 draws upon the lessons of 2018 tax amnesty program, which successfully accelerated the collection of delinquent taxes and encouraged voluntary compliance among both individual and business taxpayers. The program was highly effective, collecting over $30 million from nearly 900 delinquent taxpayers and provided a template for how amnesty can work for Guam. The experience demonstrated that properly structured tax amnesty programs can deliver immediate liquidity to the government, improve long-term compliance, and most importantly, offer relief to taxpayers burdened by penalties and interest, especially during periods of economic downturn. Bill 231-38 takes a comprehensive approach by codifying the authority for tax amnesty within our laws, thereby eliminating the need for ad hoc administrative action. It gives the Department of Revenue and Taxation the flexibility to implement amnesty programs when appropriate, easing penalties and interest for taxpayers who are struggling under Guam's high cost of living in time of crisis, whether caused by typhoon, pandemics, or global recession. A legislative authorized tax amnesty provides a vital tool for both the community and the government to recover and stabilize. Mr. Chairman, with the reduction of federal grant and loan assistance under recent administration, Guam must develop localized revenue strategies. This bill offers an equitable solution. A 2025 tax amnesty program that enables delinquent taxpayers to resolve their liabilities and give the government of Guam a critical injection of general fund revenue without raising new taxes. The program includes incentives for early payment and limited installment plans, making it accessible to a broad range of taxpayers and applies to all tax administered under Chapters 24 and 26 of Title 11 Guam Code Annotated. Importantly, Bill 231 respects federal law on Guam territorial income tax, ensuring that any waivers, amendments, or reduction of penalties and interest related to the GTIT liabilities are carried out exclusively under the authority and guidance of Revenue and Tax. This guarantees that the Act does not conflict with federal statutes or regulations. The bill establishes a real property tax amnesty program, specifically aimed at accelerating collection and provide liquidity within government rate increase, permanent increase. It offers a clear eligibility criteria, benefits, and a structured application and payment process, all administered transparently by the Department of Revenue and Taxation. Taxpayers currently under payment plans are eligible, and their participation will not require termination of their existing arrangement. This program includes robust reporting requirements, ensuring accountability and transparency for the legislature and the public. Today, Mr. Chairman, there's about $130 million in uncollected taxes. The opportunity for the government of Guam to eliminate these delinquent tax stands before us. In conclusion, 231 is a thoughtful, evidence-based response to Guam's fiscal challenges. It provides immediate relief and revenue, supports struggling taxpayers, and strengthens our government's ability to serve the people of Guam. I urge this body to support its passage for the benefit of our island and our community and our future. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I do not have any questions at this time.
Senator San Agustin, and just for the listening public, I'll read the title of the bill and then have the panel introduce themselves. This Bill 231-38 COR is an act to add a new Article 8, Chapter 26, and to add a new subsection 24713, Chapter 24, all of Title 11 Guam Code Annotated, relative to establishing a Guam tax amnesty program for tax liabilities. I will start to my immediate left and recognize Office of Finance and Budget. Please, panelists, introduce whom you are and to whom you represent.
Vanessa Valencia, Office of Finance and Budget.
Good morning. Edward Byrne, Director of Administration.
Good morning. Denise Mendiola, Deputy Director with Department of Revenue and Taxation.
Good morning. Carolyn Rivera, Tax Enforcement Program Administrator, Department of Revenue and Taxation.
Good morning. Jerome Uggan, Department of Revenue and Taxation, Taxpayer Service Division Administrator.
Thank you, panelists, and I remind the listening public as well as our senators that the panel has been sworn in. Speaker Blas, please begin your 5 minutes of questioning or comments.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and to the panel, thank you very much for being here. And I guess this question is first directed to Department of Revenue and Taxation. Thank you, Mayor, folks, for being here. What would this be able to provide to you in your understanding? What would this bill be able to provide to the Department of Revenue and Taxation?
Aside from additional non-routine tasks, it will help us be able to mitigate or address the delinquent taxpayer component. and the entity in itself. It'll support one of several programs under the Enforcement and Compliance Initiatives. Tax amnesty program is just one of several, and so it provides somewhat of a short-term, which we already have the authority to run, and that was addressed in the testimony. However, with every compliance initiative program thrown outside of our routine tasks comes with a cost. So really, based on what was suggested or brought up in the testimony hearing, the body addressed administrative costs and adding to it as a more supplemental term on top of our primary budget. So things like that, that's what it will provide our department and provide the delinquent taxpayer entity.
Okay, at this point right now, I mean, what is the landscape now with regard to unpaid liabilities? Well, what unpaid taxes? Where are we at right now?
The last time I ran it, the accounts receivable,
Right.
and that's just one small component of a tax amnesty program. So just speaking on the AR itself, the last time I ran it, it was at a net, meaning BPT, income tax of $245 million, all entities that have a tax liability other than zero. Net, 245.
So,
That was as of end of fiscal year 2025, sorry.
a net 245 mil of your accounts receivable?
Our accounts receivable balance as of fiscal year end 2025 was, okay, now accounts receivable, there's three categories that we had to move the inventory into. So the balance of 245 only addresses those accounts that were referred to our collection branch under the Tax Enforcement Division. And it's not to say that those are the only accounts that are delinquent for a tax amnesty program.
Okay.
So we have the variable unknown number of taxpayers that haven't filed, but we can't tell that number until the applications start coming in, and then the number of years and number of returns required for that tax amnesty condition.
Has there been any, I guess, focus or study on being able to try to capture what those numbers are?
For tax amnesty specific,
Not just for tax amnesty. I mean, granted, this is but one component, yeah, as you had stated, right?
Okay, so you have the AR
Right.
components. So delinquent taxpayers, maybe over 100 accounts, 100,000 accounts, sorry.
100,000 accounts?
Tax amnesty components can only be determined as the applications come in,
Absolutely.
right? So there's no telling, and I'm not sure it's a good comparison to pull up the last 3 amnesty stats.
Okay.
And say, oh, we're expecting maybe 5% more or 5% less. We can't tell that until the applications start coming in and we can decipher what the delinquent taxpayers are applying for.
I apologize, and I appreciate that. And now that brings on a more concerning with regard to you recognize that this is just for what you recognize already as accounts receivable, but then there's a whole other category of individuals that failed to file
Correct.
or have not filed. I don't want to say failed to file because some of them may have left already. There's no requirement for anybody to tell you that they're leaving for good. Right?
Depending, yeah.
Right.
If they were here during those years, they were required to file with Guam, then yes, that return is still outstanding. The accounts receivable also, okay, so it appears that anyone sitting in the accounts receivable is non-compliant, and that, in fact, is not totally the picture.
Right.
It's those, we have taxpayers struggling to pay that liability, but they are deemed compliant as long as they're working with Rev and Tax and on an installment agreement, which is another program for taxpayer assistance, right? As long as they're working with the department, then they remain in good standing. They're considered remaining in good standing, not necessarily non-compliant because they didn't pay, right?
Has there been a noticeable increase in the number of, I don't want to say non-compliant, but non-filers over the?
Again, non-filers is a variable,
Right.
right? If you're asking if there was an increase in the AR, yes, there was an increase in the AR from the last tax amnesty of 2018.
Okay. Again, your AR is based on what you know about what they owe. But what
Based on what was filed.
What do you know of those individuals that, let's say, filed 2 years ago but no longer file?
It could be they relocated, like you mentioned
Have
earlier.
you seen an increase?
A lot of variables, right?
Have you seen, has there been a noticeable or increase, or has there been any variable to indicate that as to why it may be occurring, or what is occurring?
There's no way to tell based
Do we still have the same tax
on,
base is what I guess my question is. Do we still have the same tax base?
we do, we do have the AR account, as long as it's not paid, remains in the books, right? Until 10 years, until the statute runs out. Then we abate it or inactivate it.
Okay.
Other than that, it will sit there for the statute.
Okay, so to wrap this up, the 245 mil that you have currently AR, that's not inclusive of those taxpayers that are on right now a extended payment program?
Yes, it is.
Oh,
So
it
in
is.
order for any taxpayer to become, to take the opportunity of any of the programs, they have to have filed a return that triggers the assessment.
Okay.
And then if they can't pay it, then there's the remedies, offering compromise, other settlements, IAs. Request for penalty waiver even also is a program in and of itself.
So would this bill allow you to provide those individuals who are currently under a payment program? Now, is the assumption that the payment program inclusive of interest?
So a payment program, an installment agreement, I'll call it an IA,
Right.
is open daily. It's routine, a program, right? So a tax amnesty, if we run one, it doesn't impact an eligible tax amnesty taxpayer.
Okay.
That's not one of the conditions. When you're going to afford yourself a tax amnesty opportunity, you have 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 months to get that tax portion paid. Then the rest of it gets waived or abated, right? Whether or not you're currently in the AR and on an IA or any other remedy, even if you requested for a penalty waiver before the tax amnesty program came about, it'll be addressed according to the balance status of that tax amnesty day. The tax amnesty would be applied. For instance, if we previously approved your waiver, it's because you proved reasonable cause, right? So if a tax amnesty comes about subsequently, whatever the balance is as of that time, including the interest and whatever additional penalties, if any, would be waived under that tax amnesty program. It's complex, it's comprehensive, there's a lot of examples. We could talk about it all week, but each program for us in our functions and operations, we handle them separately to the extent possible. When one overlaps the other, for instance, tax amnesty provides all interest is abated and all penalties are waived. Boom, right? So that's easy math, easy. But when you're doing the actual analysis and work for eligibility, for instance, and then the final approve, disapprove, all of that, it takes so much more to come to the result, right? And then thereafter, then there's a whole slew of tasks we have to address for each, maybe even each case by case. Sometimes you qualify, sometimes you don't. Sometimes this is asked of you and not of others, not required of others. It's just a comprehensive variable.
Okay, well, that satisfies some of my initial questions. I'll listen more. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senator Gumataotao, you're recognized.
Thank you and good morning, and thank you, Mr. Chair. My questions are directed towards revenue tax. So recognizing that $30.1 million was collected out of the $35.2 million that were pledged by nearly 900 delinquent taxpayers during the 2018 tax amnesty program, how much has DRT collected to date on that estimated $5.1 million balance from that 2018 amnesty program?
I think I'm going to have to refer to the 2018 report that was done as late as June of 2019, June 26, 2019. The base inventory at that time, together with real property, income tax, business privilege, use tax, occupancy, limited gaming, was $35.1 million, and the payments that came in was reported at that time, at that count, of $30 million. Thereafter, I was working on this report personally and manually because we did not have an online system to generate or extract numbers like that. So to the best of my knowledge, this was the last reconciliation or report
Again,
stats.
I'm only asking about taxpayers. I'm not talking about the other stuff. Of the 900 delinquent taxpayers in that last amnesty, there was a balance. So can you give us an idea of how much was collected from the last time we did this program?
I have it.
And
Yes,
just
give
the
me a sec.
taxpayers. I'm not talking about corporate, I'm not talking about anything else, but just the 900 that were.
I think I incorporated that in my testimony. Oh, here, okay. Supplemental. If we're talking about the same group of taxpayers, what was counted, I'm not sure where the 900 component came from, but 927, as of June 2026, 927, which was 68.2% of the applications, was approved, and 432 applications were disapproved. That came up to like 31.8%. Now, to decipher that out further, I don't have any subsequent data analysis.
Okay, why I'm asking is that if we're going to go back and try to do a tax amnesty program, Mr. Chair, and if we can understand it, did they collect everything or not, I'm just trying to discern whether or not if we had a balance from the last one, are we going to continue in 2026 to have to try to collect from 2018? I'm just trying to figure out between that and today, how much have we, because let me move on if I can, then for the record, because I don't have that much time, how many taxpayers were deemed ineligible by DRT to participate in that 2018 tax amnesty program because they defaulted on their previous amnesty payment plans as either part of the 1999 or the 2007 tax amnesty programs that were done by your agency?
We didn't count that. We didn't do a comparison based on the 2007 or the 1999. We did not. So I don't have that number for you. If you're asking how many were ineligible to participate, I would go with our 432 that were disapproved. For varying reasons, they were not eligible.
So there's a strong chance that in 1999 or 2007, they might have been some problems then, and then in 2018, they were not allowed to participate.
There were not a lot
Allowed to participate. Is that safe? Is that a safe assessment?
You can, yeah, it is. You can. There's too many variables, so any which way we can base ourselves on what the existing statistics are, then I'd say it's good as any, because we just don't have the capacity to draw all these comparatives that you need to make the good decisions you need to make. Data analysis, it takes time for some, such as the AR. Just analyzing it for a 1 year end balance takes up a lot of time and analysis and possibly more than one body, but we work with what we have right now, and I'm it.
Okay, let me interrupt. So let me talk about the businesses now, specific to businesses that did not settle. Okay, businesses that did not settle their unpaid taxes through the 2018 tax amnesty program. How much were they given to pay off their debts through a payment plan approved by DRT? We're talking about corporations, businesses licensed to do business on Guam.
So year in, year out, every day, whatever, the installment agreement program is open to all taxpayer entities, including corporations, including sole proprietors and individuals. So I don't have the number as to how many are under the IA right now, but I could go back and give that to you later at some point.
Okay, I don't mean to interrupt. We don't have a later.
It's not.
We're doing, and Mr. Chair, I'm just going to be very blunt. I'm trying to understand so that as we are trying to debate this bill, I mean, this is important for us, and I think that we should be getting the information clearly for us to make a decision here. No offense to our friends at Rev and Tax, I don't have a lot of time, but I'm focused on, Mr. Chair, that the data that comes out of this, is this going to be, how's this going to affect revenues down the road? I mean, I'm just trying to get the details, so I hope you will bear with me, Mr. Chair. Okay, maybe you can answer this. How many business licenses were suspended or revoked because they could not, they violated their payment plans with you all?
Yes.
Relative to the amnesty, how many?
Senator, if we were asked to prepare that information and those statistics, we would have taken. I was only informed of this hearing late Monday, and I was expecting to appear yesterday. However, it was, and I wasn't previously asked to prepare those stats for this hearing. And
no, I'm saying because we're trying to do another amnesty program. And so if we had the last one, if you could tell us with some surety how many people, businesses got revoked. I mean, it goes back to my third question was, of those licenses that were revoked or suspended, how many of them are operating today?
It doesn't necessarily correlate to each other. A tax amnesty program also considers those delinquent, non-filing, non-business taxpayers. So we don't have that number for you.
So you don't have a number
of
how many?
We can get how many business licenses were canceled, but I need time to go and pull that information.
I mean, we had a public hearing on this measure. I'm not trying to debate it with you. I'm trying to help make a decision. If I'm going to vote for this bill or not, is it a value to this community to do this at this time, how much it's going to generate? That's why I'm asking. And
all
I know,
the information,
and to the deputy, I know that you guys were prepared to come here for a lot of other things, but I'm just saying that as we're here to debate this, it's clear. I'm trying to help make a decision. If I know it's 1,000, 100, are we going to go 400? I mean, you told us today we have 245 million in accounts receivable. We don't know the breakdown. It's a value. I support this measure. I'm trying to help my colleagues to help us make a better decision on voting yea or nay. Mr. Chair, thank you for the time. Appreciate it.
Ms. Masi, Senator Gumataotao. Senator Chalahi, you're recognized.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I would like to yield my time to Senator Chalahi for this round.
Okay, so let the record show. So Senator Chalahi, you have 10 minutes.
Ms. Masi, Senator Parkinson, and thank you to the panel for being here. And I'm sure we can come up with a million questions that we would like to see data for, but I understand this is a huge thing that's being proposed in this bill. All right, maybe I can start with Mr. Byrne. Does the administration support passage of this bill?
The administration certainly doesn't oppose this bill. Its position is that it doesn't need a bill to actually put in place an amnesty, but the administration supports any measure which seeks and succeeds. And I understand Senator Gumataotao was trying to find out how effective the program was going to be, supports any measure which increases government revenues.
Is this going to increase government revenues?
It's designed to. I have to defer to DRT as to whether it will.
All right, it's also going to forego government revenues, isn't it?
It's going to forego interest and penalties.
Yes.
On the basis that there will be a net gain by the actual capture of the principle of taxes. And that's what happened at the last amnesty. So I don't have any reason to believe that there would be a net negative impact to revenues.
You don't say that one more time.
The last amnesty produced a cash inflow, so I have no reason to believe that this measure would produce a net negative.
A cash inflow of taxes that are already due and already sent to collections, right?
Yes, but that's a matter that, if I may, you have to ask DRT. All I saw at DOA was a net cash inflow.
The DRT, you said very clearly, already has a program to do exactly what this bill proposes to do, and that is to waive penalties and interest for those who have circumstances that fit your criteria, right? The difference between your program and this would be they don't need any criteria to say why they didn't pay their taxes. They don't have to give any reason why they are years delinquent, and that they are just going to waive penalties and interest, right? That's the difference?
That's one difference, correct. May I
please
bring up the issue with Mr. Byrne? So another characteristic of a tax amnesty program is it's short-term or quick cash influx that we're hoping for or expecting, right? So after that goes away, yes, it's a two-part impact on our revenues because we already did the work to assess and collect the interest and penalties, not just the tax. So in that way, it's also a loss. We lose out on any penalties and interest and any opportunity to collect that within that 10-year statute. And then on the administrative side, all our expenses incurred or paid to assess and collect on that penalty, interest, and the tax, right? Goes hand in hand. The other point maybe that is related is on the interest and penalty, on the penalty waiver, for instance, go hand in hand with our routine programs such as offering compromises, installment agreements, like I mentioned earlier. So come time for a tax amnesty program, if any, those accounts that have been struggling and in our AR, yes, some of them can be eligible to relieve themselves of the balance of the interest and penalties at that time. However, these taxpayers that are struggling to remain in compliance also have to, without a tax amnesty, you pointed it out earlier, have to prove reasonable cause and a whole slew of other conditions in order for us to approve, versus the tax amnesty, it's just across the board. If you're eligible and you meet all the conditions, waive your total interest, total penalty.
All right, Mr. Byrne, one of the arguments against decreasing the BPT was, or one of the arguments in favor of decreasing the BPT made by the chamber was that we are not collecting our taxes. And we're here proposing to waive how much if we collect of the 245 accounts receivable, how much of that, if it was as of today or whenever you calculated that 245, how much of that is going to be waived?
Now, this is the overall, let me get to that. So if all of our AR accounts were eligible and applied for a tax amnesty, the tax balance as of the end of fiscal year 2025, for income tax, it's 165. For BPT, it's 80 million.
That we are waiving?
No, that we're stand to collect if
Okay.
everybody was eligible.
Okay.
So the total tax balance that we stand to collect is, out of the net balance, $158 million, if every one of those, not to mention the delinquent one, non-filers that we haven't assessed yet, right? The interest balance is 54 million and 62 million for penalty balance. And those are net numbers, not necessarily the balance tax due numbers. It's a net number with overpayments added to or reducing the tax assessments and interest assessments, et cetera.
So we would be reducing our tax collections by 64 million from BPT and 93 million from income tax?
60 reducing,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Can you repeat your numbers?
Okay.
please?
Right now, as of fiscal year 2025, the net tax balance is 158 million. If everyone came in, they would pay 158 million as of that balance.
Okay, out of the 245.
We would write off interest in the amount of 54 million and penalty in the net. These are all net numbers. I'll explain that later if needed. 62 million is the penalty balance.
62 million penalty.
So there's your net balance of 245. Oh, there's also 29 million of administrative adjustments that reduced it to 245.
Okay. What do you mean administrative adjustments?
If you just add the 158 tax balance plus the interest balance of 54 plus the penalty balance of 62, there is administrative adjustments that reduced it by 29 million, net 245. Those administrative adjustments are correcting math errors or double assessments for erroneous assessments. Again, waivers of interest, if any, and or waivers of penalty and abatement of interest, if any. All of that falls in the administrative adjustments.
All right. I guess the big question is, of the 245 million AR, is DRT working on collecting these? Is there a reason why we are looking to look the other way on these things?
Actually, we're not looking the other way. We
No, the
collect every
bill
day.
proposes
Oh,
that we
the
are
bill-
going to do that. and
Based
not-
on tax amnesty,
like we're unable to collect them. Are we able to collect these?
we collect on a daily basis. I don't have the revenues report with me, but we do. We do. and under those several other taxpayer assistance programs, such as the penalty request waiver, the installment agreement, the offer we collect based on not just these, even on current accounts, current returns, right, are paid in, not just the AR. And through the installment agreements, that's on a daily, weekly, monthly, whatever class they fall under for installment.
Right, so we're collecting on the installment. Those are going to be
are.
waived here, some of that you're already collecting on, or
Yes.
they're already promising to pay. We have
Yes.
almost a guarantee that they're going to pay those. We're going to waive that. We're also, you haven't begun collections on some of these, of the 245.
You have what?
You have not begun collections on some of the 245 million accounts receivable, is that correct?
These are all referred accounts in collections.
Oh, these are all
for,
in
yes.
collection, all right.
They're all being handled with
All
our
right.
collection
Are we,
officers.
and so does Revenue Tax think they can collect these then?
Every
Yes.
day, we think
Yes,
we can
all
collect.
right.
We do our best to collect these on this,
All right.
on these accounts.
All right, Mr. Byrne, does the administration think Revenue Tax cannot collect this amount that's been referred to their collections? I mean, why are we waiving that? If that's been referred to collections, that's their job, is to collect these assessed taxes.
Well, I don't know of any tax jurisdiction that collects 100% of the taxes that are due to them. And I think if you look at the IRS reports, that there's a similar shortfall in collections for one reason or another. And the reasons for that, I mean, there are many, but mostly because for business reasons or for personal reasons, an individual business just doesn't have the cash to pay the tax.
Right, but in those cases, they can avail of the current programs under revenue and taxation, right?
They can certainly go and apply for those programs, yes.
Yeah, so we're looking at in the next budget, they want to reduce the BPT by 40 million. And in this bill is proposing that in addition to reducing BPT by 40 million, we are going to waive, trying to remember how much you said in BPT. Well, 62 million in penalties in both BPT and income tax
Those are aggregate.
together,
yes.
yes. And then we hear that I don't know, it's just not making sense to me. You say we've been told by Office of Finance and Budget that according to the fiscal team, we are operating in a deficit. So does that mean we're super desperate for this cash that we're going to waive all these taxes? Or do you think we're going to be able to operate with this kind of a loss in addition to a 40 million BPT reduction?
The revenues that we debate and predict in the budget bills and acts are based upon historical collections. And it doesn't really take account of the expected further collection from a reduction in taxes. You know, that receivable has increased over the years, and part of the reason that it's increased over the years is that revenues have increased over the years, and therefore the proportion that's unpaid in absolute
The Committee of the Whole is back in order. Director Byrne, could you please repeat what your statement was from the beginning of this question?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Budget bills and acts predict revenues based on actual collections. The majority of those collections are obviously current taxes. Some of those collections are as a result of DRT programs to collect receivables. I don't have the difference between those two numbers. To us at DOA, we just record what we receive, when we receive it, and that number forms the basis of the revenue predictions for the budget bill.
So does that mean, Mr. Chair, that Reverend Tax's answer also needs to be repeated?
I was informed by the Sergeant at Arms that it was only Mr. Byrne who needed to repeat his answer.
All right, so then that means that, we may be reducing the amount of revenues while we had counted on those revenues in the budget for FY26 or going forward. Or I guess just FY26, because that's what we've done so far. And I guess while Mr. Burns says Reverend Tax cannot collect 100% of what's owed to it, this bill is proposing to waive not just BPT and income taxes, I think, but it's also proposing to waive penalties and interest on real property taxes, alcohol, tobacco, liquid fuel, occupancy, use, and gaming taxes, and employer withholding penalties and interest on employer withholding taxes, and corporate and individual income taxes. But I mean, if we had counted on that money in our budget predictions, isn't this going to, like alcohol, tobacco taxes, we're going to waive some of those collectibles or what you had deemed to be collectible? It's just, Reverend Tax has not told us that they have a problem collecting these things. They are continuing to work on this. They have not said that's the problem that we're having right now. They've asked for additional resources to help them to collect these things. And I feel like that's what we should be doing, is giving them these resources to collect. And it's a little bit troubling for me, or maybe a lot troubling for me, that while we have proposals that sound like, we've already reduced the BPT taxes, they want to reduce BPT taxes again, and now we're going to waive those who haven't even paid their BPT taxes, all the penalties and interest. I don't understand that. That's, and in the meantime, we have people who had the same challenges and were able to do what is required by the law and go to Reverend Tax, apply for their programs for extended payments and different types of accommodations, and in some cases get those penalties waived in a very upfront legal way. And I remember in 2018, we were really desperate for cash. We're not in that same position today, are we, Mr. Byrne? I mean that's I guess a speculative question, but this is not 2018. We have cash coming in. We have the ability to collect. I think we have businesses that have been afforded privileges of reduction in taxes. We have, alcohol, tobacco businesses, gaming taxes. Why in the world would we waive tax and interest and penalties on gaming taxes, alcohol, tobacco taxes? That the administration supports those as well, Mr. Byrne?
Well, can I just address the point you had made earlier about, are we in the same position as 2018? And clearly we're not. Fortunately, I don't have to struggle to pay payrolls like I did in earlier years. And I hope never, ever to get back to that situation again. But I think what this bill does, just not segregating the different taxes, what the bill seeks to do is to gain a tax receipt by forgiving the interest and penalty.
Yeah.
Now, you could assume or not assume that that amount was going to be paid at any rate. And I think that's the whole issue behind an amnesty. By forgiving the interest and penalties, which, and DRT will confirm this, when you pay something, when you pay taxes, as a result of this, it gets first applied to interest and penalties rather than the tax balance. So if you waive the interest and penalties, you're immediately receiving the tax balance. And the whole purpose behind the bill is to receive more than you actually concede. And
But that's not what they've ever conceded. They have not. What I'm hearing is Revenue Tax has not conceded that they are unable to collect a large portion of this amount. And what we're also hearing is that, this is from your administration, if they cut the 40 million in BPT as these Republicans are proposing to do in 2027, then we are unable, this is what you guys say, we are unable to take care of certain people that the government services we normally provide. That would be 40 million on top of the 40 million from last year. And then you say, we're not in 2018, our cash is coming in, you're not having cashless paydays, so we're not at that risk right now. And I just feel like we're going to lose in 2 years, we will not collect $80 million in taxes. We will now not collect 80 million plus 62 million. And I guess I'm not understanding the rationale of why you're saying we need this cash immediately, not let them do their collection process, not bring us in the 62 million, that you're saying it's really going to hurt us if we lose the 40 million. This is 62 million.
Yeah. Well, may I invite you to ask DRT about that balance between the collectability of the tax balance and the collectability of the penalties and interest?
All right. Are you able to answer that question? So of the 245 AR that's been sent to collections, what's your estimate of how much of that you can collect, or you expect to collect? Is that the question, Mr. Byrne?
It's along those lines, yes.
Okay, this is based on an unaudited, per se, risk assessment of less $10 million. So 235 would be collectible or still remain on the books. And every day, day in, day out, we conduct. And on our struggling or limited resources, right? Currently, we only have about 13 collection officers actively functioning. In exam, we only have 4 active classified full-time employees for the revenue agents. And so discussing from the exam function standpoint, exams, outcomes of their audit generally identify other revenues that weren't considered because it's an unknown number, and just the other functions of their work totally impacts revenues as well.
Well, that sounds great, doesn't it, Mr. Byrne?
It does.
Yeah. So they're estimating that they can actually collect 235 out of this 245 million, and we, by this bill, would be foregoing a chunk of that. Yeah.
Can I just make a clarification? We can strive to collect the 235 million net balance with our 13 revenue officers.
Yes.
Yeah.
All
Do our
right.
best.
So if we gave you more revenue officers or you hired more, you could collect more. And if we don't support your 13 officers, you probably are not going to be able to collect that. Is that right?
Correct, and it's not only the human resource factor, it's also as allowed by law, right?
Yes, of
As
course.
allowed by law and in consideration of taxpayers' rights to due processes and
Yeah.
everything else that we have to consider. So it's not just make a call and then we influx 235 million. There's a
Yeah.
lot of processes going on.
And don't forget, Mr. Byrd, they have 3 lawyers up there at this time. And, so I was thinking we're going to look at, waiving maybe income taxes for, individuals. But this bill goes so far to
Thank you,
waive
Senator,
all kinds
on
of
your closing
taxes, as I
comment.
said earlier. Thank you to Reverend Tax for those collections.
Senator Perez, you're recognized at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning to the panel. So in the testimony provided by DRT, they stated it's important to distinguish between two strains, day-to-day or case-by-case relief, which is enforcement-driven and conditioned upon taxpayer proof, compliance history, and payment requirements. And then the other one is mass tax amnesty programs, which are designed to resolve large volumes of delinquent accounts efficiently and generate near-term revenue at scale in a temporary or short time frame. And so they go on to caution. It says, the former are typically described as those who are voluntary self-report and strive to timely meet all required tax obligations, including full payment of tax principal, interest, and penalties, while the latter is offered to pay the tax principal only, thus appearing to benefit as a delinquent taxpayer. So in looking at the bill itself, I don't know if you have a copy in front of you, but it authorizes DRT for, it seems like, rolling tax amnesty programs, right? It doesn't say a specific time frame. It says DRT shall announce the program's start date 30 days prior to the opening, and applications may accept it for no longer than 180 days. So this particular, the codifying of a tax amnesty program in these terms would potentially, do you think it potentially would undermine the ability to collect this 245 million, which you are pretty confident, given more resources? How would that impact your ability to collect that? If given, the message that, oh, there's going to be a tax amnesty program somewhere down the line, we don't know when. So would you foresee possibly that those that are going to pay are now maybe thinking, oh, I can pay less with the foreseeable tax amnesty program that DRT may be announcing in the near future? So would that impact your ability to collect this 235 or 245 million?
Not to the extent of how much we can collect. It would be tasking to do all and any taxpayer assistance programs that we consider non-routine. Takes a toll on our operations. And for instance, the Adude Mangafa, it required overtime, right, for our limited agents and officers. So any program under the tax enforcement and compliance initiatives for taxpayer assistance programs impacts our agency and operations the same as any other special task force or tax component, taxpayer assistant component, where it's not necessarily that we oppose the intent of the bill, and we also offered some notes or language for consideration for revision to the original. We don't oppose the intent of this bill. However, clarity would be good. Further clarifying components of the bill, it would be, which we shared with Senator Joe San Augustine's office.
Yeah, so it just seems that it undermines the ability to collect, because now you're giving, there's this mixed message that we want to collect, but maybe at some point we're going to erase the, erase
Yes,
the
conditions
taxes.
are varied among the different programs. Even penalty waiver, request to waive your penalty is, the taxpayer has to prove their reasonable cause, versus, you're right, this group of tax amnesty delinquent taxpayers don't. And it doesn't necessarily affect our ability, it's just we have to pivot according to those guidelines and those programs and the tax law.
So it's going to cost more for DRT to manage this, just like the other programs?
Yes.
And in addition to trying to...
Non-routine usually requires overtime.
Yeah, in addition
or
to trying to ensure that
more
it's
people.
collected.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, yeah, so it seems like there's more negatives to this. It seems like it's more of an issue when when you talk about, a rolling tax amnesty program that's codified versus a directed, targeted tax amnesty program, which have specific dates. And that's the problem, I think, with this. It really undermines. So one of the mission statements of DRT is to apply and enforce licensing laws with integrity and fairness and encourage voluntary compliance by educating customers to enhance and maintain public confidence. And so I think that's the heart of this bill is, it's really creating two potential, it undermines, I think, the fairness for those taxpayers that are willing to pay, pay their debt, right? Pay their taxes and even on tax payment plans. And there are the others that, I could see it totally benefiting delinquent taxpayers that, sort of game the system, right? So I think, yeah, that's one of the issues of this. With the accounts receivable, have you broke down how much is from tobacco taxes? What amount is for tobacco taxes?
Actually, for just based on the tobacco alcohol tax section of the GRT form, for lines 30 through 40, aggregate, it's an actual overpayment balance of $55,000. That consists of 15 returns or statements assessed.
And then real property. So,
And then what?
what about real property?
I don't have the real property. Income tax, BPT, tax enforcement, real property, it's its own division. I didn't prepare those stats.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking is that this has real impacts to, so for instance, so alcohol and tobacco taxes go towards a lot of our healthcare facilities, and so I guess it's good that there's no loss or accounts receivable there. But in regards to the real property taxes, that goes to our schools, and so already we have delayed collections, right? Because we were extended the real property tax payments till the end of this year. So again, is there really a need when it's kind of already, I'm just questioning whether there truly is a need, because we already have almost like a reprieve, a relief in real estate taxes for this particular year, because it's a delayed payment, and potential impacts to our schools, which are in need of that money. I think, so how much would you say was administrative cost to carry out these individual programs?
Thank you, Senator. That will conclude your questioning on this question.
Okay. But do I get an answer for that?
Of course you get an answer.
Okay, thanks.
Please proceed.
Depending on the program, there's several taxpayer assistance programs that we have run over the past 5, 8, 10 years or so. It varies. Sometimes it requires system modifications, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it requires only the human resource factor that just maybe not impact an increase in staffing, but moving or transitioning some staff within the department to other areas. But typically, a lot of the special or the unforeseen or spur of the moment brought on by, like such as the pandemic, it requires overtime. That's one component. Sometimes the modifications, systems modifications, which that can vary. The last 2018, I did request, I worked with DMR and we developed a tax amnesty kind of a special assistance program, kind of modification in our system. But back then, we couldn't afford to pay that modification plan. So we did it, we handled it manually. We counted what was reported to our management and this legislative body manually. Everything was manually, and except for Excel, but we couldn't extract specific to that 2018 tax amnesty program. So I did bring this up with my management, and if push comes to shove, then that would be part of the administrative costs. Because we really struggled to provide you guys the numbers, to provide Guam the numbers. And we really prefer not to go through it again as we did back in 2018.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, if we can ask DRT to provide an estimate of that amount, considering they don't have that information, as well as the information regarding real estate accounts receivable at this time.
Yeah, you can. The request has been noted.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if we'll have it by the end of this bill, but it's noted. Senator Bora, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have no questions at this time. Thank you.
Senator Lujan, you're recognized at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just actually comment and a question. And first of all, I'd like to recognize Mr. Jerome Uggan. Thank you very much. You know, his work with our team helped us to understand, of course, the tax collection side of customs and helping us with our Asakuda bill, which we debated yesterday. It's in the voting file now. So thank you very much again for helping our team work that out. And looks like it's going to pass you know, when we go to vote. So thank you again very much for your work and the understanding that you provided for our team. Thank you very much for that. Just one question to DRT. You know, we hear about, of course, tough economic times, but then tax collections are up and all that. Do you see an influx then of individuals and or companies or having a hard time making their tax payments and stuff? And is the time ripe for such an amnesty? It's just a simple question for such. I mean, you know. Where are we at really in the outlook of tax remittance to the government of Guam?
With regard to year-to-year comparisons, at least for our AR, everybody under our AR, if you have filed your returns and you paid your tax, you're not in our AR. Therefore, you're not struggling. We consider every account that hits is referred to collections for more aggressive collection actions is struggling.
Yeah,
so,
but you see an influx on the strugglers at this point,
so
be it individuals or companies. Do you see an influx? You see that number spiking up at this point? A spike on
okay, so inventories typically vary.
Okay.
They can go up in numbers, but less in balance,
sure,
right?
Okay.
And vice versa. So coming from the balance as of June 30th, 2018, which this body or the body then received that report, the AR was net 193 million.
Okay.
And that consisted of, I'm sorry, let me take that back. That was the overall. The accounts referred to collection branch balance at that time was 186 million, consisting of 37,953 accounts. When you fast forward to the fiscal year 2025 numbers, the net balance referred to collection is $245 million and consisting of 77,421. I didn't break it down by entity type.
Yeah, so there is a spike. There is a
Yes,
spike. So yeah,
there is.
and that was my question basically. And so yes, the people are needing it, and we are definitely in some challenging times. And so that's just my question. So with that, thank you very much. And again, Mr. Ogden, thank you very much again for helping our team out. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Luis Senator Lujan. Ranking Member Tina Rose Muñoz Barnes, you recognize.
Thank you there, Mr. Chair, Manana Situas, and to the panel. Manana Situas, and thank you for your presentation this morning. And, you know, as you can see, I'm part of the co-sponsorship for this amnesty bill, and I want to say that this bill literally is about recovering tax liabilities that is already owed. And the question that was previously asked by the senator from Tamuning was, do you see a spike, and what are we looking at compared to maybe even 5 years ago, right? We're up to confirmation, $245 million owed to the Department of Revenue and Taxation. It's general fund, right? That is correct.
And it's based on, like I've been mentioning,
And if we're looking at the number of
Other
vendors that owe, do you have a number to the number of businesses that owe a part of that 245 million? Do you have a breakdown, like how many corporate, how many sole proprietor,
Yes,
how many?
we do have that breakdown, income tax versus BPT as well. Give me a sec.
Mr. Chair, can we get a copy of the documents that they currently have right now, the breakdown on this, so we can have it readily available in front of us?
Sure, we'll take a 1-minute recess to
wow.
have those copies made.
That must have been a good question.
It's a great question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
That
Go ahead and
spike
say
looks
that
pretty
one was
big. I
great.
think everybody wants to look at that. So we are in recess. Committee of the Whole is back in order. Senators, you should have three sets of information that's provided to you, and of course all the disclaimers are on the pages as well, so please pay special attention to that. Senator Ranking Member Tina Rose Muñoz-Barnes, you resume your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank the panel, DRT, for giving us the analysis, the breakdown, and the detailed comparative of what's happening here. And, you know, I look at this measure, Mr. Chair, and I wanted to ask Rev and Tax again, looking at what is owed today at $245 million to the government, and plus, how many of those out of that 245 will end up being, I guess, written off because of the timeline, of the government's timeline? I think, if I'm
I
not...
estimated that at 10 million. It's been consistent during those times that I did, during those years that I did assess for risk of accounts falling. So statute of the statute of limitations expires. It's roughly 10 million. So reduced the 245 based on the count of those accounts that reach statute of limitations is roughly 10 million.
Okay. So, Mr. Chair, thank you very much for that. I just want to say, Mr. Chair, we've seen this success before when this amnesty program was in play. I think 2018, right, was the...
Correct, the last one, yes.
Right, and how much did we receive them? About 30 million plus? How
Correct.
much was?
Yes.
Okay. So,
including real property.
Including real property. And I just want to say that this here, if we implement this program, you know, we will see real revenue come back without having to raise any taxes. And if we are serious about funding the critical services, then we must at least be equally serious about collecting what's already due, and we really need to acknowledge a practical reality that since 2018, I'm looking at this chart, these documents that were provided to us, that many businesses, many individual and businesses have fallen behind, and penalties and interests accumulate. The way I see this is very quickly, and that overwhelming burden leads to many of those avoiding to come forward. So my question, I hope it's my last question, is to see if this implementation of this bill is proffered by the good senator from GIGO, and of course myself as the second co-sponsor, will you see a realization of a lot of folks that really don't have the means try to come in and make payments to the rev and tax with this if this program is implemented?
Based on the 2018 amnesty, for me and all the reports that I analyze and data I report on, 1,359, if I recall correctly, was the number of applications that came in during the 2018, which resulted, part of them were not eligible or did not get approved. However, the part that did get approved generated that 30 million associated with that payment. Now, so again, there's also many unknowns, right? It could generate more revenues compared to last, and it could also generate less. You could even have more taxpayers applying, but less tax that they're able to pay. Because in a tax amnesty, you have to pay your tax, correct? You have to pay the full tax by that deadline. There
but
are
if an
many
opportunity
delinquent
was given, So my yes or no question to this, if the opportunity was given, do you see it as more of a positive than a negative? Is your answer yes or no?
I would say it's a balance, because we do recognize fast cash influx. We all can see it. However, the abatement and all the processes of waiving the penalties is still on us moving forward beyond the program.
Yeah, and we understand that, but taking away from the interest and the penalties that are being assessed by revenue tax, if there is someone who owes and we can collect over 30 million 2018 and seeing what is owed today at 245 million or 247 or 245 658, don't you think that anything coming in would be a realization to the government coffers?
Correct.
Okay,
yes,
so
it is.
So, Mr. Chair, I'm saying that this measure provides literally an opportunity for the taxpayers, at least for me, to reset and resolve their obligations. And I know that a lot of them want to do it, but probably with all the accumulations and all the penalties that may be imposed, that they just don't know how to grasp. And for me, to pivot and reset may be a more positive factor for this program moving forward. And I think if we can allow our community residents to know that this is an avenue that we're willing to work with again, because how many times has this program, amnesty program, been done in the past? More than one time? More than three times. And with that, we've all recovered funding coming in, right? We all received resources coming in, right? There was never a time when the program was implemented that we did not receive money coming in.
Correct.
Okay, so Mr. Chair, that literally gives an even more affirmative action for me to support the measure moving forward, because I think if we can open that to our residents and understand that the difficulty that's out there, especially with everything that's happening around the world, I think that the residents and those who owe will probably saying, you know what, there's a chance for us to do something right again and help not just the government, but help those who really want to still have businesses here. So thank you for the time. I know my time is back, so I yield back. Sizus Masi, Mr. Chair.
Sizus Masi, Ranking Member Senator Tina Rose Muñoz-Barnes. Senator Joe San Agustin, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To the panel, you identified earlier that the amount of funds that could be abated, you know, the 10-year rule, right? Could be approximately about 10 million, correct?
Correct.
Estimating approximately.
Estimated, yes.
Okay. Well, I want to make it very clear, my colleagues, I used to work at Revenue and Tax. I used to work for Ms. Uggan, Ms. Carolyn, and worked with Jerome Uggan also. But at the same token, okay, 10 million, 245 becomes 235. How about if folks passed away, but you haven't been informed, and it's still, they're listed in the AR, and it could vary. The amount, that 235 could drop again, right? Am I correct?
Correct, because I did not decipher for the team the special classes, such as bankruptcy, GITA, active versus continuous levies versus litigation, et cetera.
Right.
Yeah.
And I understand that, because, you know, I just to inform you and my colleagues, if you look at the drive, I've introduced amendments that can help the Department of Revenue and Taxation. Because one of the biggest faults that, maybe I'm including that, but that we needed to give you guys more money. We can't talk about it. I look at it that through the tax amnesty, if you can get a percentage of funds that can create a branch, if not, assist the branches so they can hire people, so that we're not just looking at, Ms. Carolyn, can you put these numbers together? She can turn to somebody and says, somebody put these numbers together, get the information from the different branches, and then be able to provide it. So that when we have hearings like this, she's speaking with one document saying, you want to know the numbers? We'll tell you. It's right here in our report. And it becomes very simple. Then people don't have to come up with insinuation that you have the ability. 13 collectors at revenue and tax, how much do they averagely bring in a year?
How much which
Do
component?
they collect, the collection branch, how much do they bring in every year?
How much do they bring in every year? That would be a revenue report, which I did not bring with me.
Okay.
So I'm talking,
But
sorry.
could we say they bring in 10, 20 million a year? Could be, right? And the reason why I ask that question, because when we insinuate that in 2 years, the department with 13, it's like looking at us, the body, we can bring in 245. It's not possible. It takes years. The process is not, I open up your document and I say, okay, you apply. There is a process to even qualify. You could have 10,000 people show up, and out of 10,000, maybe only 1,000 will qualify. Then you know the numbers. Then after they qualify, then the question would be, you qualify, but do you have the ability to pay? There's a process, my colleagues. And with this tax amnesty, like my other colleagues have brought up, we can help reset some of our folks out there. There's some businesses that are saying, I want to stay open, but I got to pay my taxes. It comes with interest and penalties. I can't afford it. But if you allow me the opportunity to reset, I can do it. Some of them will have the ability to go to the banks and say, can I get a loan so I can pay? And revenue and tax, as far as they're concerned, pay me, because we need to keep the government moving. Go ahead, Karen.
So there are, as I mentioned earlier, on top of tax amnesty program or beside it, are the other tax enforcement compliance initiative programs that assist taxpayers. One of them is ongoing routine daily application to request for a waiver of your penalty, offers and compromises. There's other settlement agreements that happen civilly, and then abatement of interest, OIC. So there are several programs that do assist the taxpayers with the ability, with their status or their
financial
ability to pay back.
Correct.
Pay back their tax obligations.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure we have it clear that number one, when we talk about 245, están ahí por 235.
Yes.
And then with the ability and everything else that's happening in the department, that the department is struggling to put together, that 235 is going to drop. There's no doubt. It's going to drop. It's going to keep going down because of all the other programs that exist to help the taxpayers. And with that, I believe, instead of doing this like every 7 years, leave it to the department to say, you know what, this is the time. The last time was 7 years ago, correct?
Correct.
And how long was it before 2018?
2007.
If you notice, there's years. But I believe with this bill, you set the pace. Maybe 7 years from now, or maybe 8 years, or maybe even 10 years, the department says, we need to generate again. Go after the folks that are coming in, and instead of going with all the different programs, the department can decide that. And one of the amendments that are there, so I'm just leaking it out, consultation with BBMR and everybody to discuss when you want to start the tax amnesty again. That's what this bill is going to do, allow you that flexibility. And with that, I got 25 seconds later. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, panel, for being here. I missed you all 12 years ago. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Senator Masi, Senator San Agustin. Vice Speaker Tony Ada, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Perhaps just a couple of questions. You were mentioning about resources earlier. Is that budget resources or just personnel?
It starts with our personnel, our tax enforcement division. We could do better. We could do better if we, get the right funding support as well as, just overall.
Because I recall in our last oversight hearing with Revenue and Taxation that the department has the funding to hire. They just didn't hire the personnel. and that was said at the oversight hearing. So I think, and the question was asked, has the department gone out to University of Guam or GCC where they have accountants to start recruiting accountants, and they said no, that they haven't done it. So I think the resources in trying to get these personnel into the Department of Revenue and Taxation, I think we need to just try what we can to go out there and look for accountants or the people to fill these positions. And I think it goes back to Department of Administration. How is it in the recruiting that we turn around to look for individuals that Revenue and Taxation is looking for, and when was the last time they recruited for the positions that are vacant at Department of Revenue and Taxation?
Thank you, Vice Speaker. There's an open position for that as we speak. We've not had a overwhelming number of applications for the job. But we have had some applications for Accountant 1 at DOA, and we are going to talk to them to see if they would be interested in this position, because as you pointed out, they have similar qualifications.
So when was the last time an announcement was placed for accountants for both Revenue and Taxation and Department of Administration?
There's open announcements for both.
So it's continuously open?
It's not continuous, but they've been open for, we recycle, because the problem with the continuous ones is that you have to keep on recycling the same list. So we close the list and reopen it again so that we can encourage new applicants.
And when was the last time interviews were conducted or for the positions?
For Accountant 1, we're doing it now. We sent a list, but I think it was a very abbreviated list, to DRT 2 weeks ago. So I hope they're interviewing for
and prior to that
list. Prior to that, I don't remember. Accountants I do, because it's in DOA.
Yep, so prior to 2 weeks ago, there was no list or no applicants?
There was no, there
so
was
I
a
think,
big gap, yes.
So that's what I'm saying. I don't think the funding's the issue. I think it's how we're recruiting to get personnel to apply for these positions.
If I may add value
sure,
to this.
Please.
I've been at DRT for about 3 weeks. In that time, I have attended a meeting, several conversations with Department of Administration. So I'm working closely with the team on the active recruitment of these positions, including revenue agents. And at the same time, we're also performing an organization analysis of DRT so that we can ensure that the recruitment and placement of the appropriate staff is in the right branches as we're moving forward, because we are mindful of the financial position of the agency. We are also very mindful of the current situation with the branches that do require these very specialized positions in order to be able to collect appropriately. And so we've been working very closely with the administrators and the supervisors in order to do that. So that is active right now. In the matter of 2 weeks, we have already provided 2 lists for interviews for the revenue agents.
And how many on those lists for interviews?
2 right now, of a total of, we have a total of 18 active positions that we are trying to recruit at this moment as priority. Right now we're operating at about 63% in staffing at the agency.
63% represents how many individuals?
We have a total, what was our total number of staff? About 200, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind that some of those positions may not be filled. So at this point, I was given the number of 63%. We're going through a reorg, and so at that point, we may adjust the numbers. But at this time, those recruitment processes are still in place. So I have not adjusted that.
Okay, and I heard earlier that you had 13 personnel there?
So the 13 was my,
Are those LTAs? Or
those are revenue officers,
those
active, full-time
Okay.
revenue officers. I believe it's 13. I did point out as well the revenue agents. I have, I believe, four active revenue agents and 2 full-time active tax auditors. That's an all-time low for that branch, and that branch addresses or has the function and responsibility of identifying other revenues that may be, you know, amiss or not taxpayer units that are not considered in budgets and appropriations and estimates, right?
Yes.
So, or it comes in after.
Yeah.
You know, just
and that's what
it's
my
not-
concern was, right? Is because, you know, it's not the funding that is the problem, it's the recruitment of individuals. And I can imagine how much you guys are overwhelmed and overworked up there.
Yes, so there's a whole bunch of inventory that cannot be assigned based on our limited resources. However, recently we did open up and we did receive and we did conduct 2 interviews for 2 revenue agents. And I believe we are planning on selecting both of them and getting them in our exam operations, right, to help. It's ongoing. We also implemented the internship to encourage, it's a specialized area, right, with certain certifications different from many of the other tax staffing. And so pay is an issue to attract these specialized personnel to apply even.
Is there any, how do you say it, how can you get like those that have already retired, right, to come back to,
We
know,
do have currently, we
Yeah.
brought back 2 of them.
Two of
Two
them
of
that
the revenue
retired.
agents. However, contracts are limited. They could walk out any day, so it's not necessarily a guarantee they're going to be here for the long term, whatever. They could walk out any day. So to establish going back to our historical numbers, we used to have between 30 and 35 in each branch. They're collections and examination, tax enforcement branches. We historically went as high as 33 in exam or vice versa, 35 in exam and 33 in collections. Historically, when I was still a tax auditor or an agent and just going through the years, the numbers were as high as in the 30s.
Yeah, I mean, because with 77,421 taxpayers that are currently
That
behind.
just is on the collection branch of
Yeah.
13. So there is a need, and there's also a need to reassess the positions in itself based off of the 2014 CWA.
And I think you said it right, you know, when we see this many taxpayers that have fallen behind, so the economy is really not doing as good as we all think it is. And the government is not flushed with, or the taxpayers are not flushed with all this money to pay off their obligations. You know, it's an obligation absolutely to the government of Guam that has to be paid, but, you know, when you try to collect zero of zero, you're still going to get zero, right? But when you try to collect at least the tax amount versus tax amount plus interest and penalty, then at least you get 5,000 if that's what it is. And it does, like, you know, my previous colleague had spoken, that it provides a reset. Because I think a lot of folks that are out there, whether they're the small entrepreneurs or, you know, the big businesses, everybody struggles. And when they struggle and we get this far behind in taxes, then we find ourselves, the government, struggling as well. And I think that, you know, we continue to uphold and keep the Department of Revenue and Taxation and giving them what they need, which you guys already have the resources, which is the funding. It's just the personnel for you to get so that you'll be able to continue to collect, because you are the cash cow of the government of Guam. You guys are the ones that collect every penny that this government or this body here appropriates. And without your work that you guys do constantly on a day in, day out basis, we won't be able to go back and appropriate the funding. So thank you for all that you guys do. And I know a lot of times it goes unappreciated or not even spoken. But just know that at least some of us folks here in this body appreciate everything that you guys do. And I know that the folks up there that perhaps are watching are saying, give us the resources, help us, right? And that's why I'm asking DOA too to do what they can to constantly get out there and get these positions, do the interviews, get the folks there, and so that we can start getting you guys what you need. Thank you.
We are working together.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Byrne. And that's what it's about, right? It's working together so that we be able to get these things taken care of, and hopefully one day, this 245 million may go down to at least, who knows what it may, right? But thank you, Mr. Chair. My time has expired.
To response to the Vice Speaker Ada. Senator Shelley Cabo, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. And Hafaday, good morning. First to the people of Guam, and secondly, my colleagues, and of course the panel here. Thank you for being here. I just have a few questions for DRT, and I wanted to ask, with regard to the 29 million, what is, how do we get this administrative adjustments? What is the basis of this amount?
Senator, are you referring to the 2018 amnesty report?
Correct. Oh no, you mentioned earlier that out of the 245 million.
Oh, the AR. Okay.
Yes.
Which report are you looking at?
Yes, you mentioned earlier that there's a 29 million give and take. You normally have, based on that amount, we have this administrative adjustments. And I just really took note of that because I wanted you to expound on that and make everyone understand what is the deciding factor for the 29 million.
Those include corrections to posting of a return, for instance, or processing a return, math corrections, when a request for penalty waiver gets approved, then that would include that credit or abatement to that credit, to that liability, tax adjustments, specifically corrections and credits to be applied, offsets, etc. That's a net balance of abatements versus overpayments to be applied to something else, or math corrections. Yeah.
It's a huge amount altogether.
It
right?
is.
Yeah.
And it's over the years. It's not just in the current year. That is the balance, though, that has stayed in the inventory over a period of years.
Over a period of years.
Yes.
And you would say how many years, roughly?
It can go back as far as even the ones that fell statute, they don't necessarily get zeroed out unless the revenue officer or the agent, whoever's dealing with the account, actually submits an adjustment to zero out that account or to put it in as inactive. So these accounts consist of all accounts other than zero. When I say other than zero, it doesn't necessarily mean it was a fully paid account. It just means the account became zero by the end of that fiscal period. So overpayment balances, this inventory has overpayment balances as well as the balance tax due balances, the debit balances.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that.
Welcome.
It's been hanging in my head from the first time you mentioned it. Do you think that this bill will delay any collection that is in progress?
As long as a taxpayer is eligible for the tax amnesty conditions. set at the time. I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
Oh, if this bill will actually delay any tax collection already in progress?
It will not
It will not
delay.
delay.
No, it
Well,
will not.
I just wanted to clarify that. You know how we have set you have set plan wherein you actually reach out delinquent taxpayers, right? So one of that would be through press releases. Is that so? Or is
No,
there
so we
other
send out-
ways to reach them?
Yes, we send out notices regularly,
Notices.
depending on what step of the process is, what notice is required. Even at the onset of taxpayer service, for instance, income tax processing return, if something prohibits them from completing that process, they would send out a 30-day notice. That's taxpayer service,
Directly.
right? Before an assessment is made. So another notice would be our annual reminder notices, which is handled by the collection branch as well. It's just a short notice to say, hey, reminding you these are the periods we're looking at. So that notice actually helps people
Helps a lot,
to
right?
just
Yeah.
navigate
Yeah.
the system.
Thank you for clarifying that. Just a curious question. Is there going to be an audit of amnesty program after the completion?
So it's not necessarily an audit, but it happens from the beginning. The processing of that application, that taxpayer has to meet the certain conditions that are set for that program. In any program, actually, a taxpayer has to be eligible, per se. They can't just give us their name, and then we go in, and there's a whole process. It's comprehensive sometimes. And it's especially tasking, maybe, again, bringing up our limited resources, right?
Thank you again for
Yep.
clarifying that. Hence, there were 32 individuals that were not approved in the past, right? You mentioned that earlier too. Earlier.
432?
No, 32 applications. Sorry, not individuals, but applications. So actually, in reality, it's good that there is a safeguard, a process that safeguards this whole thing. So that's really, those are just the questions that I really wanted clarified. And I think it's also important, not just for myself, my colleagues, but the people of Guam to understand that this is not just, out of a whim or something, but there are structures and safeguards in place to
Yes.
ensure that programs like this will will be deployed efficiently. On that note, I really don't have much further questions because, Mr. Chair, most of the questions had been addressed already by our colleagues. So I thank everyone and thank you, DRT, for clarifying all these questions in my head. And thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving the opportunity to speak. And Esta, thank you.
Masi, Senator Calvo. Senator Titlegy, you recognized at this time?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon to DOA and also Reverend Taxi. Sorry if I don't, pleasantries are out the door. I'm trying to get in my timeline. So let's start beginning at with Denise. The additional work that's needed, everybody's been talking about for the program, if it's implemented. Are there application fees that you currently do with other areas like DRT, like, was it driver's license applications, all these other applications that are put in place? This would be a great possibility to put a fee, an application fee for anybody applying for the amnesty, and would that help cover the costs at Revenue Tax?
Well, to implement this amnesty program, it will require additional resources. And so just to start with the software itself, that's very important so that we can properly record, maintain, retain records, and protect the taxpayer information. So that's one, equipment and software. And then, of course, additional staff, specialized personnel that will be needed to ensure the operations. And then in addition to that, we want to make sure that they're properly trained. And then in addition to that, we're looking at also community outreach and the education that needs to happen in order to properly inform the taxpayer. So just those things, there are other things like the OIC, potentially, and that has a fee. I'm conferring with our administrator here. She's the SME, by the way. And then, in addition to that, there may be some overtime, in the front end of this. So it is important that whatever we do, we want to ensure that we are protecting the taxpayer information at all times, preserving the integrity. And so in order to properly function, we would need all of these resources.
Thank you for clarifying that. So at Rev and Tax, sometimes depending on the client and their situation, Rev and Tax has the authority to adjust any of those pays. So if we were to put a $100 application fee for the amnesty program, in the event somebody comes with just a small amount to pay, but wants to pay their taxes, but their fees and penalties are maybe $300, but it's an opportunity for them to clear the books. Would it, if I were to put an amendment in that says at the discretion, or up to, let's say up to $100, then it would be the discretion of the director to put that fee. And sometimes they do that currently, right?
That's right. Correct.
Okay, so that would be one way of funding the program. Thank you. The second one I have is, let's go to Carolyn, the section where in your bill in front of you, if you go to, I think it's page 8, section G. Now I heard that this section really is not needed and based on your testimony, so I made an amendment that I would actually strike out section G, or small letter G on that page. Can you explain why that this is not needed, this section is not needed?
There is, I mentioned it earlier, there is an installment agreement program that currently exists for any taxpayers willing to apply for installment agreement. This section points out may pay or remaining principal by no later than 24 months. So typically a tax amnesty program is short-term. And to us, anything over a year, maybe even over 6 months, is considered long-term.
Okay, so it's not needed then? Okay.
I don't believe so.
And you already have that in the books for other programs if you should use it?
This is a program open to all and any taxpayer, any day. It currently exists.
Right, like Director Burns had mentioned earlier, that Rev and Tax has that initiative right now, or that authority to provide this kind of
and
relief.
several others,
relief when needed, so it's not necessarily. So determine the start date on this. My concern is just giving one entity of Government of Guam to determine when they're going to start the amnesty program. How do you collaborate with other, like Department of Administration as well as BBMR, like, okay, what would be the best time or what would trigger an amnesty program? I have an amendment in there that basically it's a determination so that Rev and Tax can collaborate with BBMR before the amnesty program starts. You know, it doesn't just give one agency the authority. I think my good colleague who authored the legislation mentioned that earlier about that. But you do collaborate with the other agencies before starting.
I believe so. I believe that's how it happened also back in 2018.
2018.
Maybe Mr. Byrne can expound on that.
I believe there was some discussion as to the conditions were different then, but as to when the program should start with other agencies, yes.
Right. Okay, so that's good. So I have an amendment in there that would kind of allow the determination to be forthright first before the start of the program. You know, I've noticed on it's the spreadsheet, the longer one, spreadsheet. Okay, and at the bottom, you're showing here the funding. So in the amnesty program, first, how long did it take how long was the amnesty program in 2018? How long did that last?
I think it was 3 months, maybe
3 months?
extended to 4, if I recall correctly. I don't have that
Okay.
information, but I think it's written in the proposed bill.
Yes, 180 days, I believe.
No,
Oh, the one before.
the UOG
Right.
study or the reference to, it's in the bill. On page 2, so, yeah, so they detailed it out. Guam Department of Revenue and Taxation, May 4th, 2018. The program was announced on May 4th, official website, applications. We started accepting applications 3 days later, May 7. Deadline of May 27, so that's less than a month, which was extended to June 19. It was extended to another
And then another
month.
time, June 26th.
So
Right.
this looks to me like 2 months.
2 months, okay. And this program, based on the...
Oh, and then it was extended again
to June 26th.
Originally due August 6th, but we're extended to September 5th.
September 5th.
And I believe that last extension was really for collecting the payment associated with the already filed applications.
So
So
the-
it wasn't necessarily we were accepting applications at that last term.
I see. The only reason why I'm asking is because at the beginning where you have at the very top category start dates, you have June 30th. And the legislation here talks about May, beginning in May. And then it actually ended in September 28.
Correct,
September,
but
so, yeah.
it overlapped. So
Right.
I have a September 30, 2018 balance as well, right
Right.
after that June. It wasn't to say that it's an exact correlation between the amnesty and the AR balance. It was just to have the information as to what the balances look like at the time of amnesty.
You know, Carolyn, I started doing some math on this and noticing that at the very beginning, when the amnesty program ended in 2018, it was collected almost about $35 million if you were to take the balance of $193 million, and then you go to FY28, right under that calendar, you went to $157 million, which is about $35 million in collections. And then in 2019, there was an additional negative of $2 million, actually, you know, from those numbers. And then I'm noticing in 2020 and 2021, there was an increase of taxes owed to the government of Guam of 11 million additional. So 11,154,000 in 2020. Then 2021, I added that up. It was another add-on to 11,154,000 for almost the same amount. And this is at the end result of 247 million where we are today, basically. So I'm just looking at this trend that's happening. And then I see in 2022, there was actually a negative 13 million. So that's good. We're not continuing to increase our debt of taxes that are well, I call them debt that's owed to us, actually, our liabilities that's owed to us. And then boom, in 2023, for some reason, 2023, $60 million was added to that aggregate. 60 million in that year. Can you tell what's going on with this trend and why so much in FY23?
Without
That'll be the final question, Senator. Thank you. Go ahead.
Without analyzing the exact data, right? It is not directly correlating to any tax amnesty or any other program per se. It is taxpayer driven. It is taxpayers' ability to pay or not to pay. The tax amnesty, again, I'll remind the body, it does not include those non-filers. These are every These include taxpayers that filed their returns, just couldn't pay their returns. Tax amnesty incorporates the non-filers, those delinquent, those coming out of the woodwork saying, hey, I have an opportunity to at least get my taxes filed for the last whatever years. This balance, these accounts do not include those variables. Also, we had COVID, right? We have the different aspects impacting economies. Jobs, businesses, closure or increase in businesses, new businesses versus, you know, businesses that were lucky enough to just maintain and retain their business activity for decades, right? Versus, there's a lot of factors and variables that impact year to year. We can't pinpoint it to a group, especially not one component or a group of components. If one needed the detail of 1 year to another, the more, how do you say, focused analysis has to be conducted and reports have to be and calculations have to be processed. So this is general, other than zero, already on the books, not including delinquent taxpayers that have not filed a return. Because without a return, we cannot assess. These are all
But
assessed.
and like I said, this is as simple as just doing the math. You know, how much did they owe in 1 year to another year to another year? And then such a huge boom in 2023 of $60 million of people not paying. But then it went negative.
And then
in
back
2024, it went negative, less than $39 million negative in that accumulation aggregate of 247 million. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll wait to the second round.
Appreciate it. Actually, at this time, we have finished round one on Bill 231-38. We will be moving when we come back to Bill 262-38 LS, and Vice Speaker will be recognized to begin discussions on that bill. We're in recess until 1:30 p.m.